Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you our second game of the week. One of just two ranked versus ranked matchups in Week 15. Number 17, North Carolina, at number 10, Miami. And I'll be honest with you, our second game of the week originally was going to be Cincinnati at Tulsa, a huge matchup out in the American Athletic. That game was canceled. The two will now meet next week for just one time this season in the American Athletic Conference Championship game. But this matchup out in the ACC, this is going to be a big one. And this is going to be a fun one. Sure, it might not have college football playoff implications. It might not have ACC title implications. But both of these teams are still fighting for a potential New Year's 6 bowl spot. Both of these teams have seen major improvements from where they were this time a year ago. So we're going to be in for a fun matchup down in Miami on Saturday. And we are here, of course, to break down everything you need to know about this game. The offense, the defense, who has the edges, the keys, and of course, who we have winning this game when it's all said and done. Before we really dive into the stats and the numbers here, let's take a look at what happened last year. North Carolina upsetting Miami 28-25. And if you remember, that game was early on in the year. Week 2, week 3? It's early in the year. And that really set the tone, I think, for both teams over the course of the season. Kind of showed us that Miami maybe wasn't going to be what people thought they'd be in year one under Manny Diaz. And it also showed us that North Carolina might exceed expectations in year one under Mack Brown. I think they did, going 7-6. Remember, all 6 losses coming by just one possession. Going into this game, sure, Miami wants revenge, and Vegas thinks they might get it, as the Hurricanes are favored by 3 points. So North Carolina, a 3-point underdog going into this game on Saturday afternoon. That spread, of course, brought to you by BetNow.eu. Make sure to check out their link down in the description below. You're not going to regret it, I can tell you that. Use our promo code GRIDIRON for that 100% sign-up bonus, that $1,000 cash sign-up bonus. We've enjoyed using them for over a year now, so where we go to place all of our bets, any sport, any time of the year. By far, some of the best offers and opportunities over at BetNow. So again, make sure to go give them a look down in the description below. So let's go ahead and take a look at the numbers now. Let's take a look at the offense. Let's take a look at the defense. And I want to start with North Carolina here on the offensive side of the ball. A side where both teams have very balanced offenses. Both teams very balanced when you look at the numbers. But North Carolina might own that slight offensive edge. The Tar Heels are averaging 41.1 points per game, 534.5 total yards per game on average this year, despite being 7-3. 7-3 still not a bad mark at all. The leader for North Carolina, as we all know, is Sam Howell. I mean, the guy was ridiculous last year as a freshman, putting up great numbers again this year as a sophomore, even though we really haven't heard his name as much. Over 3,100 yards for Sam Howell, 26 touchdowns to just 6 interceptions. So he takes relatively good care of the football, still able to air it out, and he's able to do so with such a great core of wide receivers and fitting perfectly into Mack Brown's offense. The Tar Heels are averaging 315.9 passing yards per game. They're averaging 218.6 rushing yards per game. So again, we mentioned how balanced both teams are. North Carolina, of course, showing that here. And they're led by 2 900-yard rushers, 2 guys that have rushed for at least 900 yards this year in Michael Carter and Javonte Williams. And so we knew coming into 2020 how great this North Carolina offense was going to be with the 2 running backs, with Sam Howell, with the core of wide receivers. We knew how great they were going to be, and they're certainly living up to that hype. Miami, on the other hand, they have seen a major turnaround offensively. We knew that when Manny Diaz came back to take this head coaching job, we knew the defense was going to remain relatively strong. It was going to be the offense that was in question. Were they going to be able to find any sort of success? Because they never really were that great offensively, again, under Mark Richt. They certainly were not that great offensively last year. We're just cycling through quarterbacks, none of them having any protection. This year, they turned it all around, and that's largely in part to the transfer quarterback in De'Aaron King, who has played fantastic football for the Hurricanes this year. King has over 2,800 total yards on the year, 24 total touchdowns, just 4 interceptions. So again, Howell and King are taking great care of the football, but De'Aaron King certainly owning that edge when it comes to just mobility and the ability to extend plays. The Hurricanes are averaging 34.9 points per game on the year, and like UNC, very balanced, 272.8 passing yards per game, 173 rushing yards per game, led by Cameron Harris. The impressive thing that I've noticed from Miami is while they were so wildly inconsistent offensively last year, they have been very, very consistent this year. Hurricanes have scored 30 points, at least 30 points, in 6 of their 9 games so far. You might credit that to De'Aaron King. I credit a lot of that to the offensive coordinator, Rhett Lashley, the new offensive coordinator in Rhett Lashley coming over from SMU. Was one of Manny Diaz's best hires of this offseason, and it's paying off in a big way now in 2020 with the Hurricanes, a top 10 team, and a win here certainly going to clinch them a spot in NY6 Bowl Game. You look at the defense. We mentioned that North Carolina might own that slight edge offensively just across the board. The numbers are a little bit better, and I think across the board when you look at the wide receiver core, the running backs, and the quarterback, you might give that slight edge to the Tar Heels. I really would. Defensively, Miami, to me, owns that edge. You look at what the Hurricanes are doing right now. They're allowing just 22 points per game. 22 points per game. 227.1 passing yards per game. 139.1 rushing yards per game. All of those numbers there, all of those numbers, points per game, passing yards, rushing yards, all are well under the season averages for North Carolina. And we mentioned this in our Week 15 predictions video. We said this was going to be a battle between North Carolina's offense and Miami's defense. Which one was going to give, or which one is going to give? Will the Tar Heels find the same offensive success they found for the majority of this year? Or will the Miami defense step up, slow them down, very similar to what Notre Dame did against North Carolina, and come away with a big home victory? You look at the rest of Miami's defense here. Another thing that's impressed me is the pass rush. The pass rush for Miami has been great, and it was pretty solid last year, solid again this year. They've recorded 26 sacks, 16 turnovers. That turnover chain has made an appearance quite a bit in 2020. And you look at the 2 big playmakers for Miami this year up front, Jalen Phillips and Quincy Roche. Again, the transfer on the defensive line from Temple. Those 2 players alone have accounted for 10.5 of the 26 sacks that Miami has recorded this year. 10.5 of 26. That's 40.4% of the sacks that Miami has recorded have come from Jalen Phillips and Quincy Roche. That's pretty dang good. And Roche also has recovered 3 of the 9 fumbles that Miami has recovered so far in 2020. Those 2 are the anchors on this defense. They've had a big season so far. They could be in store for a big game on Saturday against an offensive line of North Carolina's that we'll talk about here soon. You look at the Tar Heels defense right now, they're not horrible, but I wouldn't put them up there as good as Miami. They're allowing 28.6 points per game, 404 total yards per game. And my issue with North Carolina right now is their inability to create turnovers. The Tar Heels, again, they've played 10 games. They've forced 10 turnovers. So they're averaging just 1 turnover per game. And when you go on the road against a top 10 team, you've got to find a way to force some turnovers, force them into mistakes. You've got to try to find a way to win that turnover battle, because if you lose it, you're probably not going to win the game. So UNC has not done a great job of taking the ball away from their opponents. And another concern I have for UNC is the fact that while they aren't taking the ball away at a great rate, they're also allowing 155.1 rushing yards per game. And like we mentioned, Miami has a great running back in Cameron Harris. They've got a dual threat quarterback in De'Aaron King. And again, they're averaging 173 rushing yards per game. So slightly above what North Carolina is allowing right now on average. If their rushing defense doesn't buckle up, if they don't step up, then it could be a rough day for the Tar Heels, especially being on the road. So that's going to be a key that we just mentioned here, a key that you want to watch out for over the course of this game. Can North Carolina's defense step up? We've seen teams like Virginia, obviously Notre Dame, Wake Forest, Florida State even. All those teams put up a lot of points against North Carolina, a team that defensively has been relatively inconsistent, and now they're going to face one of the better offenses they've seen all year long. Can this defense find a way to step up? That's the major question. I want to look at a couple keys to the game right now, and they're very similar and really apply to both teams. Usually we break them down, keys for UNC, keys for Miami. I'm going to apply them to both teams here. And the first one I want to look at is pass protection. It's your offensive line protecting your quarterback, opening lanes for your running backs, Michael Carter, Javonte Williams, Cameron Harris, guys like that. Let's look at these numbers here. Miami, they're allowing or have allowed 26 sacks so far this year. 26 sacks they've allowed this year. North Carolina has allowed 29 sacks. 29 sacks while recording 30. So the sacks allowed to sacks recorded ratio for both Miami and North Carolina is about 1-to-1. Really. For every sack they've given up, they've also recorded one. But 29 sacks allowed by UNC, 26 allowed for Miami. We knew the offensive line for Miami last year was a major issue, and while it has improved a little bit, I would not say it's improved drastically. 26 sacks is still not a great mark. So I look at this, guys. That's my concern for me. Which team's going to be able to protect their quarterback a little bit better? And right now, I'm actually going to lean towards Miami here. I think they've done a better job so far. They're certainly continuing to improve. And the extra edge that Miami has is if they don't do great at protecting De'Aaron King, at least he can extend plays. At least De'Aaron King can take off and run. His dual threat ability, like we mentioned earlier, is better than Sam Howell's. And I know Sam Howell can run a little bit. I know he's not just solely a pocket passer. He can escape the pocket and extend plays, but not nearly as good as De'Aaron King. So when I look at offensive line, which one is worse, I lean towards North Carolina. And when I look at a quarterback that can make the play when their offensive line is worse, I lean towards De'Aaron King of Miami. It's a major key for both teams right now. Another major key for both teams is the run game. And again, that kind of applies to the offensive line, but you look at the numbers here again. UNC, North Carolina, they have 3 losses so far in 2020. In 2 of those 3 losses, one to Virginia, one to Notre Dame, North Carolina was held to under 100 rushing yards. In 2 of their 3 losses, they were held to under 100 rushing yards. If Miami does that, and again, they have a relatively stingy rushing defense, if they can hold North Carolina to under 100, I'd say even under $125, I think they win this game. Miami has done great against the run. They've allowed just 2 100-yard rushers all year long. 2 100-yard rushers all year long. And they were against Javian Hawkins over at Louisville, who you could argue is one of the better running backs in the ACC. And the other was against Travis Etienne, one of the best running backs in the country. Arguably the best in the ACC. I would say he is one of the best in the country. And again, that was in Miami's only loss of 2020. So 2 100-yard rushers they've allowed all year long. That's a very, very impressive stat. And you can't help but wonder, is UNC going to be able to hit that threshold? Again, if they are held to under 100, even $125 as we mentioned, I don't think they're able to win this game. If you make North Carolina one-dimensional, like they have in 2 of their 3 losses, I just don't see how they win this game. Miami, we mentioned those 100-yard rushers, only 2. They've gone 5 straight games without allowing one. And of course, that last one was Travis Etienne. Big numbers there, guys. Big numbers. You don't think about those. Sometimes they kind of go over our heads. We don't really pay much attention to them. But when you really break it down, it makes a lot of sense. So what is our final outlook for this game? Who are we picking in this crucial ACC matchup? Again, playoff hopes are done for both of these teams, even though Miami only has 1 loss. ACC title hopes are done. It's impossible to get there. It's Notre Dame, Clemson. A NY6 Bowl berth is still at stake here. The winner of this game puts themselves in a very good position to make one. And after the seasons each had last year, even though for North Carolina it wasn't too bad, for Miami it was disappointing. A NY6 Bowl game would be unbelievable. And again, show how far each of these 2 teams have come in such a short amount of time. But in this game right here, down at Miami, we are going with the Hurricanes. We are picking Miami in this game. Tons of reasons here. All the stats that we have mentioned to you today, on top of the fact the Hurricanes are out for revenge. They lost by 3 last year. Heartbreaking defeat to the Tar Heels. They were kind of shut down after that. People kind of wrote Miami off after that. Revenge over the Tar Heels. They're at home. And if I look for the team that's more complete, I'm going with the Hurricanes right now. I really am. Great offense, much improved offense. Still give UNC that edge, but it's not that big of a margin there. So solid offense. They have the edge on defense. They have the home field advantage. This is an opportunity for Miami also to show why they are a top 10 team. For a while now, they have heard they're not top 10 caliber. They've been 11th. They've been 12th. They've been right on the fringe, 10th or lower. They really haven't been cracking high into the top 10. This is their opportunity as well to show they are for real. And I believe they are for real. I genuinely do. But this is their opportunity to show to the country and the committee that they are a top 10 team. They deserve to be in the top 10. They deserve to stop being doubted because they only have 1 loss to a very good Clemson team. So in a game that I think is going to be very fun, I think a game that's going to be very close, it's that battle between North Carolina's offense and Miami's defense, and that Miami defense wins that battle, and the Hurricanes and Manny Diaz will get a huge resume-boosting win and all but ensure themselves a spot in a NY6 Bowl Game. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos. And also, make sure to check out everything down in that description below. Our expert picks for all of our Week 15 games over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Our newsletter over on thegridironexpert.com. The BetNow offers, the Patreon offers, exclusive content, everything that a college football fan would want is right down there in the description. So make sure to go give it a look. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy your college football Saturday, the last full weekend of the regular season. And we will see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.